Okay, what's going on everyone? It is Kyle and we are back with another episode of my programming and web development tutorials. Now in this episode, we're actually going to be starting a new language, and the language that we're going to be starting is C++. Yay. So basically, I thought I'd mix it up a little bit, and I've already got a couple of web development tutorials out, so I thought I'd make my first programming one. Just so for those of you who are actually more interested in programming than web development, I can kind of keep everyone happy at the same time. And, it's kind of better for me as well, working on different projects instead of just doing XHTML all the time. It kind of burns you out. I like to challenge myself sometimes. We're going to get started. I'm going to show you guys how to get set up with C++ if you've never done it before, and I'm going to go through how to create a very basic program. And I'm going to hopefully try and explain to the best of my ability how that program actually works. And at the same time, not try and be confusing and just make you not want to learn C++ at all. Because basically, it's all about having fun. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a browser. And I've chosen Firefox. And we're going to download what is called an IDE. Now, an IDE stands for an Integrated Development Environment, and basically for those of you who are brand new to programming, it lets you basically build your applications without all the fuss and hassle of configuration and everything like that. It's basically an all-in-one tool that works out of the box and it just lets you get right into it. So the one that we're going to choose today is CodeBlocks. Now, if you're asking, Kyle, why are we choosing CodeBlocks? Main reason because it is cross-platform. And by cross-platform, I mean it works on Windows and Linux, because I run both, and it's a good idea. And it's easy to use as well. So we're going to go to the CodeBlocks website, which is codeblocks.org, and then we're going to go to the download menu, I guess. And then it'll give you a list of the different type of downloads that you've got. The one that you want to click on most likely is going to be download the binary release. And when my slow internet loads, we will have a page. These are the Windows releases and these are the Linux releases. Now, depending on what Linux distro you run, you probably aren't even going to want to download it from here. You'll probably use it from the official packages of your Linux distro. But for us Windows, or the Windows users, we have CodeBlocks setup and we have CodeBlocks min-gw setup. So what's the difference? This one comes without a compiler and this one comes with one. So if you're brand new to programming and you want to get something that works out of the box, I would recommend downloading this one and then just select your mirror or your download source, whichever you pick. I've already downloaded it and installed it, so I don't need to do that. So let's get started. I'll close this one down and we will open up CodeBlocks. And of course it opens up on the other screen. How handy. Wait for it to load. Drag it over. Okay, so this is the main screen that you get presented with. As you can see, I've already done a fair bit in CodeBlocks. I pretty much do most of my console applications in CodeBlocks. So to create a brand new project and get started, we need to go to File, and then we go to New, and then we go Project. And okay, so it's going to ask us from a great big list, what kind of project would you like to make, sir? And we are going to select an empty project. There is a whole bunch of other projects depending on what you've got installed, but an empty project is the easiest to go with, and there's no extra bits and pieces. So we click Go. It comes up with a screen. It says, welcome to the empty project wizard. And we're going to pick a project title, and I'm going to call mine C++1. Ask you where you would like to create it. I've already got my path predefined. It'll probably ask you that when you start up the application for the first time anyway. Project file name and resulting file name. Hit next. And then it'll let you select your compiler. This is the default one for Linux. This is the one that I've got installed. For you, it'll probably say something like, if you're running Windows, it'll probably say something like min-gw compiler or something like that. And I think these are ticked by default, so just leave them as is, and then we click Create or Finish. So you might be asking, what's going on here? I can't type anything. And this is because we've still got a little bit more work to do. So over here on the left-hand side is basically the structure of your application. So we need to actually add another file that will let us type out our code. So to do that, we go File, File, New, and File. Drag it back over. And we need to select C++ source, or C/C++ source. And then I'll say welcome to the file wizard, and then you select what kind of language you're programming in. In this case, we're going to select C++. If you select C, you might have a bit of trouble keeping up. So then we're going to select the file name, and ours, I'm just going to call it caps locks on main.cpp. I normally just tick these by default. You don't have to. I'd tick at least one of them. Just tick both, actually, just to be safe. Okay, so this is where you can type. And you can see if you click on the little drop-down menu here, you can actually see your source file in your project. Right, so let's get started. What I'm going to do first is I'm just going to quickly type out a very simple application. Then I'm actually going to run it, show you guys what it does, and then I'm going to go back and actually explain to you how it works to the best of my ability. So include iostream int main return 0 std cout hello world /n semicolon. Okay, so we're going to save that, we're going to run it, and it's going to print out on the screen, hello world. That is fantastic. Okie dokie. So yeah, so basically how does this application actually work, and what do each of the lines actually do? So I'm going to try and explain this in a way that's not going to be confusing and not make you want to jump off a bridge. So the first line, it says hash include less than symbol iostream greater than symbol, or I guess you could kind of liken this bit to HTML in a way, that you've got the open and the close. And basically what this does is grabs the input-output stream from basically all the hidden Cody files that C++ comes with. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of what we call libraries. Okay, and these libraries actually let us do different things inside the application. And depending on what you're doing with the application, you need to use these lines to include different libraries. Now, the input-output stream actually lets us get user input and print output onto the screen, which is why we need it to be able to print hello world onto the screen. Okay, so here int main or integer main open bracket close bracket. In a nutshell, what this is, or what it actually is, it's a function. Okay, so the main function, which we always call main, is basically all the meaty part of your code. So it's basically the first thing that gets executed when you start your program. Okay, so this is pretty much like int main, open curly brace, close curly brace, return 0. All of that is basically the template for a default C++ application. Okay, so what does int mean? What is this int you speak of? Int stands for integer, and an integer, if you've had anything to do with maths or anything like that, is a number. It's positive, negative. It does actually have a range, which I'll explain in future episodes, and we'll go through all the different types, like strings and integers and bools and voids and all sorts of crazy stuff. But basically all you need to know is that int is a number, and then we need to actually give our function a name, and in this case it's main. Now the curly brace, or not the curly brace, the start bracket and the end bracket just means that it doesn't take any other arguments. You don't need any other parameters to get it to run. Okay. Now you might see slight variations of this function in some C++ applications, but this is basically the default one. Okay. So once we're actually inside the main function, or the code that happens when the application starts, what we want to actually do is print hello world out onto our screen. And to do that, we need to access what's called the standard C++ library, which is what std stands for, and then ::, and then cout, which is basically saying print. Okay, and then our double less than symbols, and then the actual text that we want to print out on the screen, and which is in quotes, double quotes. Actually, it has to be double quotes. And then you say hello world. Okay, so the little forward slash in the end basically means we're going to put a new line after we do that. And there is another way to do that, and that is to put another 2 at less than symbols and do std end L, which stands for end line. So this will still work, does the exact same thing, except the previous version is just a little bit shorter. Okay, so what does return 0 mean? Okay, so anytime you have a function that has a variable type, whether it's an int or a string or whatever it is, normally has a return value, or has to have a return value of that same type. Okay, so because integer is a number, we need to return a number at the end of our function. And in this case, it's basically providing you, where is it? See down the bottom here, process terminated with status 0 means that the code executed properly. And it's basically letting you know that the program ran without any errors. And that's pretty much, it's pretty much in a nutshell how it works. There's not really too much else to it. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to end the episode here. Please let me know in the comments what kind of stuff you would like to see from me in the future, different programming languages, different other bits and pieces. And in the next episode, we're going to actually cover in a bit more detail all of these things like functions and variables, like integers and strings and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, basically go through everything in a little bit more detail. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode.